Greco.
Dante is a really smart guy.
Ladies love Dante.
He's not got his hair. Look at that face. What's your name? Casey.
Dante Greco.
Dante was me, yours truly.
I'm gonna come.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Dante Greco Show here live on YouTube and TikTok. We're simultaneously double live. I'm just doing it, whatever. You just got to deal with it till we get it figured out. We need a total and complete shutdown of the Dante Greco Show until we can figure out what is happening. For my TikTok viewers, welcome today. Now you're here on a podcast, so I'm not going to be walking around. Well, maybe I'll walk around a little bit outside afterward, but we're going to be talking about things. We got Shuki over there. He's going to be joining the show in a minute. He's going to talk to us about Messi and his trip to Miami and all that with Floyd Mayweather. It's going to be fun. But for this, first of all, we're going to get into the big news stories of the day. I guess we can start with the negative. Let's start with the negative, which is this Danny Masterson story, okay? This guy has been jailed for 30 years. Apparently, it's really hitting his wife, Bijou Phillips, pretty hard. She's mourning it like a death, supposedly. And that was before the sentencing, that article came out. They thought they had this beat, and then because there was a mistrial, and then they tried him again, and this time they got him. This guy messed up really bad. There are no excuses, but, 30 years, he's gone, and that's it. I mean, what a weird ending. They tried to keep him out. I bet the I don't want to say the word of the organization that he's a big part of, but they probably tried their damnedest to keep him out. Now he is in, and he's going to be there. He's not eligible for parole till he's 77 years old. Did not expect this. When I watched the That 70s show, I had a cousin actually who worked on That 70s show. He was a camera guy, passed away many years ago, unfortunately, but never would have expected that from anybody on that cast. But there goes Danny Masterson. He always struck me as Erica Hutchinson on my YouTube says he needs to be in. Yeah, I agree with you. The things, it was a long time ago, and he got away with it for far too long. He seemed like an angry guy. I only interviewed him once. You can't hear me that well? Oh, no. All right, let me add a microphone to my phone. I only interviewed him once at the airport, and he seemed kind of angry. Like at first, he said, let me know, TikTok, if that sounds better. He said, okay, Pap Safari. There we go. He said, I said, hey, Danny. And he said, hey. And then he realized who I was and what I was trying to do. So he just looked away, kind of angry. He seemed like a real intense, angry guy. He looks to me like he's going to go Aryan real quick in there, and he has to. They say when you get in there, you got to pick your gang, and I don't think he has a choice. He's going to go full Ed Norton in American History X, in my opinion. But what else can he do, and screw him. It's not, he shouldn't be having a good time in there. I'm looking at this headline. He blew his stricken wife, Bijou Phillips, a kiss as he was jailed. She's been through a lot. Bijou Phillips, her father, John Phillips, from the Mamas and the Papas. Remember 10 years ago, a whole story came out where supposedly he was having relations with his daughter. I forget her name, but the other Phillips, there's three Phillips. There's China Phillips, who was in that singing group. Then there's Bijou, who was an actress. And then there's the other sister who was also an actress. And she came out with a whole story about her and her father. I mean, Bijou Phillips has been through the ringer. I feel bad for her in this. I truly do. They've got kids. She wasn't expecting this. And now the guy's going to be in jail for the rest of, Mackenzie Phillips. Thank you, Miranda B. True. He's going to be in jail for the next 30 years. He's not eligible for parole till he's 77 years old. What a change in lifestyle he is in for. He's going to be shocked. It ain't going to be easy and good. Good for that. So some people are saying excessive. I don't know. I mean, that was up to the courts. but he was convicted. They have a 9-year-old daughter. He's getting time. He got more time than any of the January 6 guys. I believe he's going to state prison. Right now, he's in the special lockup in L.A. County Jail, the one that like Suge Knight went to and other celebrities go to when they first get in. So there goes. You know, you wonder, it was a good move to not include him in that 90s show reboot. Definitely a good move on the producer's part. Imagine having to explain that, having to write him out of the show over that. They already had to write him out of that show, The Ranch, I believe, right? When this story broke. So yeah, it's a very ugly story. I don't want to spend too much time on it because it's just, you know, I like to do a comedy show and can't really joke about that too much. So why don't we talk about something funnier? Jimmy Fallon and his toxic workplace. Now, the breaking news right now is Jimmy Fallon has apparently apologized. A bombshell story came out today in Rolling Stone, which surprised me because I feel like Jan Wenner, the editor of Rolling Stone, is kind of in with that whole clique. You know, he's out there in the Hamptons hanging with Fallon and hanging with the other Hamptons elite. And they went after Jimmy. I read the Jimmy story. It's in Rolling Stone. A lot of it is about people who had a tough time working there because it was a lot of pressure. They would get yelled at. They would feel like they could always be replaced, which I felt at work. You know, they felt, one of the quotes was that, oh, you felt that there were these NBC pages who could just take your time, take your job at any time. So you couldn't make one mistake. Yeah. It's the Tonight Show. It's like the longest running late night show, and it's the Oscars of late night shows. It's the main one. It's the one that Johnny Carson did, and Jay Leno, and Steve Allen, and Jack Parr. It's the big one. It's the crown jewel of NBC, other than Saturday Night Live. So yeah, there are many people waiting to take your place if you screw up at the Tonight Show. It's a tough place to work. They complained about how there was more pressure when they went from late night with Jimmy Fallon to the Tonight Show. Well, of course, there's more pressure, bigger paycheck, all that. But Jimmy apparently was one of those guys who had bad days and good days. And when he came in on a bad day, it was a bad day for everybody. What I'm wondering is, though, like, isn't that true of every boss of a major, not just entertainment show, but like any boss is going to dictate the mood of the office. It's kind of just how it goes. I'm not excusing the behavior, but I think that that's like when you're playing in the big leagues, it's a lot of pressure. You think it's a lot of pressure on you as a writer or a guy who works in the office or something. It's probably a lot of pressure on Jimmy Fallon. No wonder they say he drinks so much. It was weird to hear that I'm a little shocked. I mean, look, he's a fun guy. He's a party guy. That's my take. But people did claim in this article that they smelled alcohol on his breath on numerous occasions. And apparently the NBC executives, even in 2016, expressed concerns about Fallon's drinking. He, of course, came out and was like, oh, I could never do this job if I was drinking all the time. I don't know. I feel like he could pull it off. You know, some people are just like that. Is he Irish? If he's Irish, he could pull that off. There was a story in there about Seinfeld was on the show and the cue card guy kind of messed up. And Jimmy started going off on the cue card guy. And then Seinfeld told him to apologize. Of course, Seinfeld responded after the article and he said, "This is so stupid. I remember this moment quite well. I teased Jimmy about a flub, and we all had a fun laugh about how rarely Jimmy is thrown off. It was not uncomfortable at all. Jimmy and I still occasionally recall it and laugh. Idiotic twisting of events." So who knows? Look, you're going to get yelled at. If you want to work in the entertainment industry, you're going to get yelled at. What's his name? David Fincher, as the director of Seven, Fight Club, all these movies. He said, like, look, I always wanted to teach a film class where I ask the kids, the students, why do you want to work in Hollywood? And someone stands up to be like, well, sir, I want to work. And he goes, shut the F up and sit down, because that's what it's like to work in this business, apparently. I mean, it wasn't that bad where I was, but you've heard stories about Scott Rudin and Amy Pascal at Sony and all these Hollywood bigwigs. You know, they are angry. Weinstein, they're angry people. It's like the business, the pressures, and also the excesses and the money and the fame and the cutthroat thing. Like it'll get to your head. So I sort of get it, but still, you know, Fallon, you gotta be a little more even keeled. You can't come in wig splitter. I don't know. I mean, I think it's just like, the business attracts a lot of people who are these borderline personality types, you know, probably a lot of sociopaths, probably a good number of psychopaths working at high levels of Hollywood and as CEOs, of course. So, you know, it's just, you're not, but I don't think Jimmy Fallon is that type of guy. I think he's a guy who likes a fun life. You know, you got to remember, Jimmy Fallon, after Saturday Night Live, he was bouncing around. He was doing movies with Drew Barrymore, and like nothing really was hitting. He hadn't quite found his place. And then when Conan went up to the Tonight Show, he took over. And then he found his thing. That was in 2009. It's 2023 now. He's been doing Tonight shows or late night shows ever since. Again, it's the main late night show for NBC. It's the main late night show of all of them. It's the most pressure. It's the most viewers. And it can make you crazy. So I understand what prompts his behavior, and maybe he drinks to deal with it, to deal with the pressure, but still, he's got to learn. But reading the article, and I encourage you, if you're interested, to go through and read the Rolling Stone article, there's nothing that devastating to me about Jimmy Fallon. There's not like some crazy scandal hidden in this article. It's mostly the people that work there were scared and they felt pressure, and some of them didn't deal with it all that well. It shouldn't be that way in a weird, but you know, that's always been the business. It's probably better now. I mean, who knows? We never heard stories about what it was like working for Johnny Carson, but can you imagine? I mean, those guys were sitting there having scotch and smoking cigarettes on the show. So you think it's bad that Jimmy Fallon might get in an elevator with you and you smell some alcohol on your breath? Johnny Carson was sitting there like, oh, what do you think about, who's that old comedian? Or Sinatra? Oh, Frank. Oh, God, my Carson is horrible. Horrible. Thank you, Marty. I appreciate that. Let's read Jimmy's apology, though. So he got on a Zoom call with his staff. And by the way, I mentioned this earlier when I was walking around in Beverly Hills. It seems like a lot of people are going after these late night show guys during the strike because maybe they're not feeling supported enough. I've seen a bunch of people on Twitter coming for Bill Maher. No one's written an article yet, but a bunch of his writers are coming out of the woodwork on Twitter talking about Bill Maher and what it's like to work for him. It's horrible. Some guy said that like the reason he pays so much, he pays his writers so well, is because it's so hard to work with him. But, you know, whatever. I haven't heard that confirmed yet, so we'll let Bill off the hook for now. I enjoy his show. Fallon, he apologized. Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to say. When I was walking around, yeah, thank you, Finesse, the podcast. So Fallon and NBC got together to pay the salaries of the employees for 3 weeks. And after that, they put them on unpaid leave. Then Jimmy gets together with Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert and Seth Meyers and John Oliver, and they come out with this cutesy podcast called Strike Force 5. Ha ha ha. It's all a big joke. The strike, we're the strike force. We're going to fight the strike. Meanwhile, the people who are below the line are losing their houses. Even Billy Porter is losing his house. Billy Porter has been so broken by this strike. He's out there insulting Anna Wintour, that ghoul who runs Vogue magazine, who is like exactly. Thank you, Marty. Just make sure to follow, by the way, if you want to see more. I do this podcast, multiple times a week. Yeah, Anna Wintour and Billy Porter are like a match made in heaven. He's always showing up in those ridiculous, gigantic ball gowns, and Anna Wintour sits there with her little gray alien sunglasses and like loves it. And now he's insulting her. That's how angry people are getting about this strike. So when the late night guys come out with their cute podcast, Strike Force 5, ha 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 ha, and guess what? We're going to donate the proceeds from this podcast to the people who are out of work right now. Like, I'm sorry. Has anyone checked the podcast charts to see if this thing is even charting? I guarantee you, no one is getting paid. What are you going to get? Enough to buy a Celsius at your local convenience store out of this podcast when you get your share of the Strike Force 5 revenue? There ain't that much revenue, I'm sure. So I think that might have pissed people off too. It's like, you're not helping us. You could afford to pay us maybe even a portion of our salaries, keep us here. You're always saying, oh, I can't do the show without my writers. Meanwhile, go on unpaid leave. I think that might have pissed people off. But Jimmy got on a Zoom call with his staff Thursday evening to plead forgiveness. And let's read Jimmy's statement. Oh, I feel so bad. I can't even tell you, Fallon told staffers. It's embarrassing, and I feel so bad. Sorry if I've embarrassed you and your family and your friends. I feel so bad. I can't even tell you. I want the show to be fun. It should be inclusive to everybody. It should be the best show. By the way, Fallon, I will be fair. And Pap Safari, if you're on here, he does give good sound bites when he gets interviewed by TMZ guys. He's a nice guy in that sense. I think he's just extreme. If you catch him when he's hungover, he's probably not that nice of a guy. Former and current employees say the star's hissy fits forced them to sob in crying rooms, made their hair fall out, and triggered suicide. I don't know if I could say that on here, but, bad thoughts, negative thoughts about continuing your existence. He had outbursts, and they claim that it created a pretty glum atmosphere, and people are like, oh my God, I love comedy. I gave up everything. I wanted to work here. I wanted it to be a fun. We got to break the news to the people that work on these shows. What looks like a fun and funny show is probably not that fun to work for, because the amount, especially a daily talk show, the amount of work and stress to come up with content every single day and be on top of the news and produce it and perform it and edit it and book it and all that. It's like, it loses the fun real fast. It's probably fun while they're shooting the show, but then after you get off and before you shoot the show, it's all stress. It's all pressure. It was the same with Letterman. Letterman, I heard, wasn't like this, but he could be very aloof. Leno is the one guy I keep going back to. And to be fair, I haven't heard much about working for Trevor Noah or Colbert or Seth Meyers. Colbert, I actually would be shocked. Fallon seems like a fun guy and a nice guy, but like Colbert is almost too nice. Like he'd start crying. If you came in with a bad attitude, Colbert would be like, I'm so sorry. But Leno, everyone said Leno was pretty cool. He was pretty nice. And as I said earlier, he gave up half his pay. He not only paid his writers during the strike. I heard an interview with him where they said, look, Jay, it's time for headlines. Here's a headline. We can't afford to pay your staff anymore for the revenue the show's bringing in. And he said, I'm making enough money as it is. Sure, I'll take a $15 million pay cut and, pay my staff with that until the show's off the air. But, good for him. Jimmy is not following in his footsteps. He's lucky that this came out during the strike, because if they keep the show on, then I don't think anyone's going to remember this. I don't think anyone's going to care. Was Leno on Epstein Island? Hey, Jeffrey, Hey, it was a beautiful island, but I don't like the vacation. I like the work. I'm going to go put on my denim outfit and I'm going to go fly back to Burbank and go down to the set. Start writing jokes. So I think Jimmy is going to get through this. So what do you guys think? You think Jimmy's going to get through this? I think that it came out during the strike. Strike's probably going to go on another month or something at least. No one's going to remember. No one's going to care. People don't even watch it as a late night show. They watch it as as like clips online. And honestly, this makes me want to go to a live taping of the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, because if he's capable of having outbursts on his crew while they're taping, that's something I would like to see. He'll pretend to go to rehab and be forgiven. Yeah, I think that would be the last ditch effort. That would be like if something worse came out. Like, remember when Kevin Spacey was getting hit from all sides and then he was like, all right, I'm gay. That'll get you off my back. If something worse comes out about Fallon, then maybe he does rehab. But I don't think he even wants to go close to touching the drinking thing. I think that he wants to just like keep that off because he wants to keep partying. He wants to keep having a good time. Yeah, I agree, John Q. They can pay the writers. How about instead of doing like a podcast, you're just like, hey, the 5 of us are putting some money into a crypto, and we're going to pay you guys if this coin takes off. Strike Force 5 coin. Invest. And then there was one girl in the article who had a problem, and they reported it to HR, and apparently the HR person reported it back to this person's superior that they were complaining about, a woman named Jamie Granite Biederman. Yeah, here's another news. Here's another headline. Kevin's charges were dropped. Yeah, but when he was getting hit, that was his move. He was like, all right, I'm finally going to come out, and you guys will have to leave me alone. Here's another headline for you people that work. HR is usually not on your side. They are there to protect the company from lawsuits. So like they're listening. Believe me, I know people who have dealt with HR and thought they were going to get a fair shake. And then it's the HR person turns around. And then next thing you know, the HR person is in the meeting where you're getting fired. Like, yeah, you weren't doing a good job. Sorry. So don't think that HR is going to solve your problems, because they're really not. They're there to make sure the company doesn't get sued and to be little spies, and no offense to any HR people if you're out there, but that's just how most of them operate. Everyone's got to do their job. What can you do? But yeah, so that's what's going on with Fallon. Nina Agdal got the restraining order against Dylan Danis. You guys want to talk about that? Does anybody care? Or should we keep talking about Fallon? Pap Safari, you got any other good Fallon stories? Apparently, when they reached out to the former showrunners of The Tonight Show and they reached out to other people that had worked there, even NBC didn't come to Jimmy's defense. So that does say something. But the question is, are they doing this as a takedown so they can bring someone else in? I mean, who else is there to bring in? I don't think anyone is that exciting in late. Like, is Seth Meyers really going to move the needle if he moves up to the Tonight Show? Seth Meyers is barely hanging on. And James Corden fled the country. Who even took over for James Corden? DK Fuel. Yeah, we talked about Danny Masterson. I mean, it's not that fun of a story. My take is that he'll immediately join a white supremacist prison gang, and because he just looks like that, and he'll go full Ed Norton in American History X. So that's what's coming for good old Danny, and I think that would be the end of that 90s show, or maybe they should take like a couple years off before they try to bring it back again. Pete Davidson could take over. Yeah, I mean, Pete Davidson, I don't think they would try. I mean, they don't like Fallon's drinking. Pete Davidson's always out there getting high on weed, admittedly. I don't know if they would want that. Pete Davidson has kind of gone low key since the Kim Kardashian thing. Probably good for his mental health. But Fallon, maybe Fallon should take over Saturday Night Live. Maybe they should move him into that. And that's if even the late night format survives, you know, it's just they're not, it can be like Conan made the right move. He exited out of the traditional late night format and he's doing specials and things like that. It's not going to keep going much longer just because it's not, as far as like a show, a TV show, it's not pulling in the ratings and it's not pulling in the interest as much anymore. So. But I do think he'll survive this. Doesn't sound as bad as Ellen, right? Does this sound as bad as Ellen to anybody? Ellen sounded like an absolute nightmare. Like it was time for Ellen to go. On the other hand, maybe the Tonight Show with Ellen DeGeneres. Get the scoop, Georgie. Yeah, they're coming after him. All right, let me see if I can pull Shuki over here. I want to get his take on Joe's Floyd Mayweather interview. Did you guys see Joe's Floyd Mayweather interview? I feel bad. He was sitting there for 4 hours. Floyd's cool, though. I like Floyd a lot. I think he was just late. I think you guys were right. He was just late, and he had to go in there. Because when he gives it up big time. Like I've had so many great clips with Floyd where he's showing off his jewelry, and he's like invites me into his car and stuff like that. Like he'll give it up to you. Definitely. Hey, Jimmy. You should apologize. Why didn't I go to Dubai? I wanted you to go to Dubai. That's why, Pap Safari. All right. So let's see if I can get shook. Erica Ann Hutchinson on my YouTube says, you hope he stops before he kills his liver. Fallon, yeah. I don't know. He's doing okay. He's not like in, I'm not trying to make light of this, but he's definitely not in Steve Harwell from Smash Mouth territory. Like, I think Jimmy's got it a little bit under control. I think he just blows off steam before, during, and after the show. Let me see what people on Twitter are saying about Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon Gong. I don't know. The annoying thing is how like enthusiastic he is. It's the show though. It's that format. You got to be super like, so fun. We're having fun. I don't know. I just don't know anymore. All right. What do you say we walk around a little bit? Who wants to walk around? For my YouTubers, I'm going to switch over now to TikTok. So we'll see you. Appreciate my YouTubers. Have a good one. Please follow me on TikTok, and you can continue this here. It's the Dante Greco Show on TikTok.